Work management platforms. Ugh, endless onboarding, IT bottlenecks, admin requests. But what if things were different?
We found love in an open space.
Monday.com is different. No lengthy onboarding. Beautiful reports in minutes. Custom workflows you can build on your own. Easy to use prompt-free AI. Turns out you can love a work management platform. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360? No price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds? Not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
So politically, nothing makes any sense right now.
I feel like politics has completely taken over everyone's life. I've been advising people just because of the way watching the news can make you feel anxious and afraid. That's our job, to make you feel anxious and afraid. That sucks.
Where can somebody go, in your opinion, to get actual news, to get information? Like, does that exist anywhere?
You can see it now. Trump is suing a bunch of news organizations and threatening to sue a bunch of news organizations for doing things he doesn't like. You get the impression that America is completely divided. One group of people is way over on the far right and everyone else is way over on the far left. That could not be farther from the truth. The Republican Party is held together by whatever Trump said 3 minutes ago. So I'm definitely not a Republican, but they'd say the same of me. And I haven't changed. They have. The frustration that you feel is real.
Oldish. The art of knowing more and caring less. With your host, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
Welcome to another episode of Oldish. Here we are. This guest, I'm super excited. I did her podcast in Hartford, Connecticut. Was it in Hartford?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Kind of, okay. Oh yeah.
Downtown Hartford.
Right, okay. So she's a powerhouse in political commentary, a woman who's never afraid to speak her mind, even if it means going against the grain. When you first reached out to me and you were like, oh, I'm from CNN, I was like, I know who you are. Like, you're introducing yourself. And I was just so honored to do your show. So
I was so honored to have you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cupp is joining us today.
Hi.
Welcome to Oldish.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here.
Oh, we're so excited to
You've
have
been
you
one of
here.
my favorite guests, and we've had a lot of great guests, but you were so great because you wanted to go the places I naturally want to go, which is into, mental health and mindfulness and how do we, overcome challenges. So we talked about all the things, of course, but getting to where we got was just so rewarding and fulfilling. And
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Because it was like you had your list of questions. And so we started with the classic 90210 ones and the, cast members and the trips you did and the thing. But then as soon as, and we talked about this before, as soon as you get into mental health and you're in that conversation with other people that are on the same path, it just sucks you right in. And that just be like tractor beam. You're just sucked into that. And that becomes the conversation. And it's a fun one to have because you start hearing these light bulb moments from people that you're talking to. Or you hear yourself speak and you go, ooh,
something
I need
rhymes.
to listen to myself.
Yes. Or you'll hear something that rhymes with an experience that you've had, but someone puts another twist on it or gives another example of how they maneuvered through it. And I mean, this can be life-changing. I've been in podcasts where we talk about mental health and I hear something that changes my life. Even if it's just a small tweak.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
That's why that's why you guys do it.
It is.
Yeah. And I trust that this conversation is going to be full of
we've set the bar.
Eye openers.
Right. So the bar's high now. So now we don't want to fall flat. So let's get first into kind of the political landscape and all that, because that's where people know you from. It's where I knew you from. I have always, it's funny, they always talk about don't ever meet your heroes, and it's always shocking to me the people that are your heroes. Like, so to me, people in politics, you, John Berman, like Jake Tapper, like these people, it's like so in my view, it's such a courageous thing that you guys do. You sit on a panel and you talk about things that you know are going to be judged heavily, and you're just open to talking about them anyway. And in my business, that's not the case at all. People try and stay as neutral as possible because they don't want to piss off one person or the other.
Well, and that, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the Snow White movie. And
okay, here we go.
Okay. And, you know, realizing it is not your job to opine on politics when you're selling a movie. And there's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, probably hundreds of jobs at stake in this project. And so it might not be appropriate for you to put your hand on the hot stove when trying to sell this picture. And we know what happened, you know,
it's a tough world because
and what happened? What happened for people who don't know?
So what happened was Rachel, who played Snow White, she is very opinionated. And so when she was doing press for the film, she was being very opinionated. When at the end of the day, it's like, just get people in to see the movie.
And it's a Disney movie.
Yeah, be opinionated on a show that warrants that. Not on a red carpet for your film talking about how crappy the original cartoon was because it was so sexist and had all these. Like, that's not, you know, you're talking about a $200+ million Disney film.
Yeah.
Based
which needs
on
to recoup
Snow
twice
White.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
They spend twice that. They spend,
That's
on, you know, on promotion. It's so the production budget was 200 million plus. They probably spent that amount in posters and all the press in the worldwide. So it's like, just show up on the carpet and tell people how excited you are that this movie is out and that they should come see it. And then come on shows like this and talk about,
where you get to do,
talk about, you know, the industry as far as like women versus men and the sexualization of there are places to do those things.
But this segues into something that really bothers me too. I feel like politics has completely taken over everyone's life. And it is now impacting who your friends are, where you live, where you send your kids to school. It should not be that ubiquitous and centrally organizing in your life. I think we've let that happen. So for me, obviously, that's my world. That's what I do. It's my job. It's my livelihood. But I think it's hard for other people who are not in the business to say, okay, this is part of what I care about. And of course I care about what's going on in the world and what's going on in the country, but it does not need to organize my entire life and set up my sort of like dopamine levels and how I'm going to navigate the world based on politics and the news.
I think the interesting thing though, politically, is that it's becomes such a moral issue with certain people within. So that to me is what has been creating such a partisan feel to everything. It's like, listen, I don't, I have differences of opinion democratically versus Republican. And that people, they have the right to have those opinions. When I don't agree with things morally, then I start judging the people around me that support that moral thing that can have such a huge impact on my world and my life and on everybody's world and life. It's like, I don't feel like you guys are looking for what is best for the country. I think you're looking for what's best for yourselves. And morally, I have a problem with that. And so now I am going to start judging you personally because you will like blindly kind of just follow that for, so I think that seems to me the issue, aside from people just not communicating well, which is, we talked about before on the show. It seems like, but where should somebody go? Because news now has become so political and so one side or the other. It's so biased.
Yes.
Where can somebody go, in your opinion, to get actual news, to get information? Like, give me information so I can make my own choice. Does that exist anywhere?
It does. I mean, listen, cable news is tough because we're sort of infotainment at this point. and we're a visual medium.
It's
We're going to
24
dress
hours,
it up.
right.
Yeah, it's 24 hours. It's not C-SPAN.
Right.
Right? The government's not paying for us like
Right.
advertisers are. We're a business of supply and demand. If you like the yelling and screaming, we're going to give you more of it. It's what people have been responding to over the past, I'd say, 20, 30 years in cable news. So that's just where we're at. But, I like to think that you get news when you turn in to Berman or Tapper. And other networks have that too. But I've been advising people, just because of the way watching the news can make you feel, certainly the way it makes me feel anxious and afraid. That's our job, to make you feel anxious and afraid. That sucks.
Yeah.
Reading the news is such a different experience.
That's what I do.
So whether you're reading it from the right or the left or what you think of is in the middle, it's a much lower temperature reading it than watching it.
For sure.
And so I think if you're sort of triggered by the news or politics and it's getting you to a fever pitch, reading it's better. Listening to a podcast about a current event or an interesting policy area, that's a better way to do. And listen, I'm paid by cable news. I love cable news, but it's a very specific thing right now. And my business is changing. It's changing and kind of dying,
All
the cable
businesses are
news.
changing.
How do you see
Business.
it changing?
Well, there's cord cutting, and so the whole industry is dealing with that, including in Hollywood. So we're dealing with the changing medium, but we're also dealing with changing appetites. News has been so democratized. You can get it so many different places. It's not just like 3 channels, 3 newspapers. We're trying to meet all of that supply and demand. There's now a surge in independent journalism, which is wonderful and great. But how are you putting standards on that? What's governing independent media?
How do you maintain independence?
It's a lot. How do you pay for independent
everything
media?
Supposedly starts independent, but then money influences.
Of course.
We've had people talking about healthcare and all that sitting here with us, and it's unbelievable the influence that, it's not unbelievable, but the influence that money has on everything.
Well, you can see it now. Trump is suing a bunch of news organizations and threatening to sue a bunch of news organizations for doing things he doesn't like. And that pressure campaign and chilling effect is working. So you have news organizations like CBS or ABC who are owned by giant, giant corporations. The money influence is real. You've seen a number of these news agencies capitulate, cave to these demands, try to tweak their programming to offend him less.
Colleges doing it, with education.
But it's
unbelievable.
money.
Yeah,
it's money. So when the money gets big and the power players are huge, unfortunately, when that encompasses a journalism outfit, those two things are in huge conflict with each other. And so you see that in conflict, Sherry Redstone over at CBS is trying to get, this big deal, but inside CBS is a news organization. MSNBC and NBC, owned by a giant conglomerate. Inside that is news organization. Mine, Warner Brothers owns CNN. So Warner Brothers makes a lot of decisions, but some of those affect a news company, and we have different standards. So it's tricky, and we're all kind of dealing with those ramifications and how it's impacting our business and our jobs.
And hasn't that been around for a while though now? I mean, this is nothing new.
Right.
It seems like it's just on steroids and it's more transparent.
It's on steroids for a couple of reasons, because we're all very worried about the future of our business. And so we're spinning off into streamers, and we're spinning companies off, and we're trying to be everywhere. So we're all feeling that pressure. And then the companies have only grown, and then they're responding to market forces, and then they're also responding to political forces. And no one's seen a political force like Donald Trump. There's always been a tension between the White House and the press, always. On the right, the left, no matter who's in, there's a tension. That's necessary. We're not friends.
For sure.
We're
You're
covering
there to check people. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But we've never seen something like this, where a president is openly threatening to sue you and open up libel laws, and suing pollsters for polls he doesn't like. I mean, it's craziness. And I think for the first time, you're seeing a lot of these companies capitulate in ways that are really, really sad.
because of the fear of the threat of being sued? I mean, if there was, I guess my question is, if there is nothing to hide, if there's nothing at all, then just being sued, okay, you're going to sue me because I'm wearing a yellow shirt, but I'm not wearing a yellow shirt. So what does it matter?
Well, and that's exactly the thing. He sued ABC News because George Stephanopoulos, this is an example. George Stephanopoulos said he was found guilty of rape. The president was actually found guilty of sexual assault. Okay. The judge in this case even said it was a distinction without a difference. There's no case here because it doesn't involve actual malice. Like there's standards for libel law and getting sued for defamation. This case would go nowhere. ABC capitulated and settled with Trump for $10 or $15 million. Nothing really. Rather than deal with the process, the process,
Right,
and the optics, and opening the book, all the things that come with getting sued by Donald Trump. Yeah, it's really scary.
Are you still Republican? Like how are you?
I'm a conservative.
You're a conservative.
Yeah.
Can you even talk us through the difference of Republican and conservative?
Well, this is the biggest difference. There didn't used to be one. Okay, when I was coming up as a conservative, which is a set of values, that doesn't change.
Right.
It's a set of values, and it's loosely it's limited government, strong national defense, lower taxes.
It's political opinions. It's what we were talking about before.
There's some
before
social
it came
stuff
more
attached.
Right. The best ways of handling things.
Yeah, and the social things didn't always appeal to me. For me, the conservative stuff that I was interested in was mostly fiscal. But anyway, the place you went for conservatism was the Republican Party. They were the standard bearers of it. And I'm talking 30 years ago, when I was coming up, 20 years ago. Whether you liked them or not, the Mitt Romneys, the John McCains, I would say these were people that I thought represented what conservatism was. They made mistakes. They weren't perfect. We don't agree with everything.
You're right, yeah.
But, the Republican Party and the conservative movement, there was no daylight really between them. Now they have completely gone their separate ways. And that's because Trump came in and didn't care about the conservatism. He didn't care about the principles. He jettisoned all of that. And the worst part, he's allowed to do that. The worst part is that elected Republicans went with him. Elected Republicans who had been principled conservatives their entire lives, who walked around with copies of the Constitution in their back pocket, literal copies of the Constitution. They decided, okay, we'll do it too. So lowering the debt and the deficit, nobody cares anymore. Protectionism, we used to be very anti-tariffs as conservatives and Republicans. Nobody cares anymore. Now we're for tariffs. Family values. I mean, what a joke. What a joke. Like, there's nothing resembling conservatism holding the Republican Party together now. The Republican Party is held together by whatever Trump said 3 minutes ago. Whatever he just said is what is orienting and uniting Republicans. So I'm definitely not a Republican, but they'd say the same of me.
Right.
And I haven't changed.
Wow.
They have.
What do you see for the future then of the Republican Party? Like how do you right this ship at this point?
I mean, Brian, this is the question.
It is.
It's not a small question.
No,
but
it's not a small question.
In on it,
we don't ask small questions.
No, this is the existential question.
Yeah.
It's not a question most elected Republicans are caring about right now, but I care deeply about it because I care about the movement and I care about the policies in it and I care about its health. And I also think you need two strong parties in this country.
How about three parties? Like what? Because
or
that's
more.
Been discussed. Like,
or
hey,
more.
let's come up with something new that represents,
Yeah,
more
and by
people.
the way, just to say this out loud, the Democratic Party also looks very different from what it used to.
Don't get me started.
Either.
Oh, it's so crazy to see.
It's in shambles too.
And I want to make this clear to people that are watching too. It's not just partisan anymore between the Republicans and the Democrats. It's within each party there are factions of it, and there's tons of infighting and tons of things going on. So politically, nothing makes any sense right now.
Well, listen, a lot of people feel politically homeless right now.
Yeah.
And it's because they might identify more with liberal policies or conservative policies. They do not feel represented by these two parties because of purity tests and weird, moving to their fringes. So most people, the majority of this country is in the moderate middle on every issue. Take abortion, for example. Most people are in the middle. They want it legal with some restrictions. Okay, if you ask the right, it's no abortions ever. If you ask the left, no restrictions ever. Those are minority opinions.
Right.
If you look at gun control, climate control, immigration, most people are in the middle. And yet, we feel alone, unrepresented, orphaned by our political parties. So the frustration that you feel, that maybe you feel, that I definitely feel, is how most people feel. But you don't get that impression when you turn on the news or you listen to political people talking about politics. You get the impression that America is completely divided. One group of people is way over on the far right and everyone else is way over on the far left. That could not be farther from the truth. So your idea of a third party or something different is valid and real. And a lot of people are talking about that because this is not working for most people.
All. No.
Yeah.
It seems like we're at this.
Breaking up is never easy, but saying goodbye to your old clunky work tools, well, that's easy. Just repeat after me. It's not me, it's definitely you. You rigid, unfriendly software. It's time to freshen things up with Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. With stunning dashboards, customizable templates, and built-in AI that actually works, switching to a new work platform has never felt this good. So move on to Monday.com.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Place of outrage media,
Yeah.
whether it's social media, whether it's, taking little shorts and clips, is that it sparks this outrage. So that you talked about that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And then everyone is so outraged and confused that it seems that we're all against each other, as opposed to what you're saying is a lot of people are in the middle and actually feel unrepresented, but are so confused.
Yeah.
So where do you even start from a mental health, self-preservation, family preservation aspect of what do I do here? Because I work with people all day long.
Right.
And I'm seeing people sometimes unable to function because they're so upset about what's going on and feel so incredibly hopeless. They don't know what to do.
Yeah. This is a big topic. And listen, the outrage industrial complex that we've created in politics and the news, and the two help each other out, is real. And it's become the point. And in addition to making us feel completely divided and hopeless, it also makes us feel like if we're not outraged about something, the stakes somehow aren't high enough.
Yeah.
And that leads you to skip over some policy issues and stories that might be really important, but no one's getting you outraged about them. They're getting you outraged about like migrants eating pets in Ohio, which is not real, right? And it's not a thing that should impact your life. But the things that we talk about a lot are things that are meant to get you outraged. And so we're missing a lot of important, sober things that probably impact you more than these outrage stories. And so it's up to us to have to sort of regulate what's real, what's not. That's a tough job as a news consumer. What's real, what's not. What's important and what's not. What's a priority for me? What's actually going to change my life? And what is just noise? And I have to tell you, as both a news consumer and a producer of news, I have had to shift that for my own mental health as I've gone through this job and my life, to set boundaries on the news I watch, to set standards for the way I want to do the news, which is not the yelling and screaming that is so rewarded. So I've really had to do that myself over the past, I'd say 5 years, to like save myself.
Do you feel like your work within the news organization is one of the things that really pushed you into the mental health?
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Yeah. And for a few reasons.
'Cause it's
obvious. Yeah. The obvious reasons are the news is awful. The news is tough. Politics is so topsy-turvy. It's emotional. Sometimes I'm telling war stories or mass shootings. I see video that's so awful, it doesn't even get to TV sometimes, but I have to filter it. I do work with victims of Syrian civil war, children. So that's like the top line is it's just awful to cover. Below that, right below that is it never stops. And so having to say, okay, the news might be going on all the time. Do I have to be going on all the time? Do I have to be on the news all the time? Under that is, okay, my identity for so long has been wrapped up in what I do. Mm-hmm. When I hit like 40, 41, this business changes for a woman. Okay, this business tells you, you've peaked. Those changes were very unsettling and disorienting for me. That fucked with my mental health. Who am I? If I'm not going to keep doing this, who am I? What's my value? What's my worth? And then all of that anxiety gets transferred onto like my kid and my kid's safety and my kid's future. And so there was a lot that went into like a nervous breakdown. Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of my job. I'm in therapy. Some of it's childhood trauma, of course. Of course. And baggage. But it's all in this mix that created, years and years of anxiety that I just wasn't nurturing, protecting, working on. I was just pushing through constantly. Like you did, like we talked about this. You'd push through. You got a job to do. Mm-hmm. You'll check on your mental health later. Sure. Except you don't always. Right. And the difference now is I might have to push through, but I will check. The thing that's tough too is, from childhood back, like that's the stuff that then takes you into that young adult portion of your life where you feel validated and you find value in this thing that you're getting attention from. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you hit 40 and you go, I don't want attention from that anymore. Exactly. I want my attention to shift somewhere else. Yeah. So it's a lot happens in life. Around that age. This is the oldish time. Exactly. This is why. Yeah. Exactly. Because around this time is when you start to go, what is my identity? Right. Who am I? Right. Do I want to be that little kid in an adult body that's just spinning out and reacting and sitting in the driver's seat driving my life? Or do I want to act and show up in a different way? That's a great way of putting it. This is a good segue. I would love to know a little bit more about your origin. I know you moved a lot as a child. You were a ballerina. Mm-hmm. Can you just tell us a little bit of your younger life to paint the picture as to how you wound up where you are and feeling the way that you feel? Yeah, and I think it'll make a lot of sense when you hear some of it. I moved a ton. I was born here in California. And then my parents got divorced. Okay. Put that on the what charts. Age? 2 or 3. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. And dad didn't want a real relationship. Put that on the chart. Okay. Okay. We moved then to Arizona. I moved like probably 12 times in childhood. So always being the new kid, always auditioning for school and new groups and who am I going to be in this group and what does this group want me to be? As a child. Yeah. Always kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. My mom remarried when I was 7. Are they going to get divorced too? So that started the anxiety 100%. Of new school, new friends. Are they going to like me? Am I going to be accepted? Yeah. And what's about to happen? The lack of stability. Yes. Yeah. And just always trying to be fight or flight, prepared. I'm going to prepare for the bad thing. That way it'll be less of a surprise. Mm-hmm. Right. Add ballet to this. And it wasn't the fun dancing with like the cute costumes and the fun music. No, ballet is a serious This was Russian form, yes. Vaganova yelling at you in French and like no talking. Yeah. 6 days a week, summer, vacations. I mean, it was intense. I ended up dancing professionally at Boston Ballet as a child. And so that was another intense layer where I was always on guard. And like, you couldn't relax. And when I look back at my childhood, it was a great childhood, but I was never relaxed. Mm-hmm. And so no surprise, I think, I go off into adulthood. I have to go to not just any college. I've got to go to an elite college because I'm used to these competitive environments. And I need that to feel valuable.
So
right?
That's how dance shaped you, because you were always competitive.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I was at the top, right? And once you get up there, I was never the best, but I was like among the best.
You want to stay there.
You want to stay there. Nothing else feels good enough.
Right.
So when I decided to quit ballet, which was right, now very quickly I have to shift to where am I going to go to college? Well, I had to go somewhere great. Went to a very competitive environment school, thrived, but more anxiety. Leaving that, okay, I want to be a journalist, but not just for like the small hometown newspaper. I want to go to the New York Times. That's the first job. Like I kept putting myself.
You kept raising the bar.
I kept raising the bar. And putting myself in these pressure cooker situations. First year in the city, 9/11 in my backyard. So now I've got more anxiety because of my environment, my immediate environment. And then then I go into political journalism. I started off in pop culture and sports. Then I go into political journalism. That's a different thing. Okay. That's its own kind of pressure cooker. And I've been doing that for about 20 years. So I'm not surprised, looking back at the totality, that I became a very anxious adult. But I would not have told you, Randy, like in the midst of it, that I was anxious.
Right.
When I'm catastrophizing and coping and doing things like imagining the worst thing happening, and so if I imagine it, it won't happen, bargaining with my anxiety, I am believing this is keeping me safe. Mm-hmm. This is actually being responsible. I'm an adult.
That's the message. I'm being efficient. I'm figuring it all out. I'm problem solving.
But that's the lie of anxiety and depression. They're both liars. Anxiety lies to you. It tells you you're unsafe when you are safe. And it tells you prepare for danger constantly. At least mine. I don't have like a social anxiety. This is my version of anxiety.
Yeah.
It's constantly telling me if you don't prepare, it's going to happen. You're going to miss something crucial. And then on the other side of it, you're not going to be able to live with yourself because you missed it. So I would always, not to get too dark, but like I would always ask, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Something happens to my son. If that worst thing happens, what will I do? Well, it always ends with, I'll just kill myself. So I was telling my therapist this a few years ago, like, how do I stop telling myself, thinking about suicide? Because it wasn't suicidal. I didn't want to die. I just needed to solve this problem in my head. What will I do if the worst thing happens to my son? And she said, you don't have to ask yourself that question over and over again. Let's even forget about the answer you're giving yourself. You don't have to ask it. What will I do? Because what does asking it do for you? Like nothing.
Nothing. No.
Nothing. So, I mean, that's how dark and deep my anxiety got me on the regular. I mean, 24/7, I was catastrophizing on a loop doing this. In the years since getting therapy and medication and really working on it, I've been able to break those awful habits. But I wished I had known earlier that that's what I was doing.
Was there a physical thing that you went through that was a catalyst for I need to change some things around?
Well, I had a nervous breakdown, and it was physical. It started with a panic attack, but like the way you talked about some of your things was really on my podcast Off the Cup was really familiar. It was sort of out of body. For a while, I couldn't read. I couldn't make sense of TV. The news the words did not connect for me. If I listened to music, it would have to be classical. Anything with words was too much stimulus and made me emotional. There was a time after this nervous breakdown where I was out of body. I was not attached to myself. I couldn't feel like it was brain fog to 100th degree. And I'm not the same. And I lament this, that I'm not the same. I'm not as quick. I need to take more time. If I'm doing something and I'm interrupted by my son, I can't just, I need to like concentrate in ways that I used to be able to multitask. Yeah. And I
feel the same way. I go through through some things where I'm like, God, I hate that I can't like remember these names or these words or these things. Like it drives me insane. But then you have to talk yourself through and go. You do. I'll start taking my ginkgo biloba. Like I'll start doing the CoQ10s. I'll start doing the
my
things
brain
that
games.
I'll start like doing those things, Schultzes and those games, you know, that like that keep me as sharp as I can possibly be.
But I was talking to I had Mark Duplass on the pod. He's an actor and also talks about his mental health. And I was saying exactly this, like, I used to be able to multitask, and he's like, okay. But were you like happy multitasking and not concentrating on one thing at a time and having to juggle 18 balls? And I said, no. He's like, were you super healthy? Definitely not. He's like, so are you allowed to age? Mm-hmm. Are things allowed to change for you? Yeah. He's like, okay, so don't lament this. This is just a new way that you have to do things. Yeah. With age comes some great benefits, but also some things you just have to shift. Mm-hmm. So that mental, again, life-changing tip.
You look at like when you could multitask, like how like emotionally and mentally unhealthy the place was that you were in.
Right.
This wasn't great.
It's the same thing when people ask me like, if you could go back and change anything. And we talked about this before. And it's like, no, because everything I went through before has brought me to this. Yeah. So it's that thing of like, you have to, these feelings aren't mutually exclusive. You can have both, where it's like you miss the times when you were quicker and all, and you could multitask. Yep. But then you're also like, thank God I'm not in that same.
But you also said
like,
this
mental
too.
Place.
You learn in the valleys, not the mountains. You learn, right?
Yeah, you
like
learn during the hard times.
Yeah, when your career plateaus or dips. That's the time you learn. My career for so long just went up, 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 up. So I learned nothing. I learned how to do my job better. Right. Yeah, but I didn't learn a lot about me.
You kept doing what you were doing. You were like, it's working.
Keep, because if it isn't broke,
don't fix it.
Yeah, that's what you said. And it's so true. Yeah. I only learned about myself and being a healthier person on the way down.
In the valleys.
And how to come back up. Yeah, exactly right.
Did you find an off switch that was really helpful for you when your nervous system is completely saturated, your thoughts, or you just can't take in the stimulation? Yeah. What is that off switch?
Yeah, and it took a while because people were like, including my therapist, was like, let's try breathing. Let's try meditation. Let's try exercise. You try everything. I did. Those things just didn't work. My brain, I think because of the news, my brain is going to tell me like, no, there are bad things around every corner because I cover them. So none of that worked. Here's what works. It's not every time, but it's most times. Someone said to me, okay, the opposite of being anxious is not being calm or relaxed. And telling someone who's anxious, like, you need to calm down, relax. That just makes us more anxious because I'm like, why can't I relax? The opposite of being anxious is being present. Because what my anxiety does is it takes me out of this moment and puts me in somewhere dangerous where I'm not there. I'm not physically there, and yet I feel like I'm in a dangerous place. So when that's happening, and I can remind myself, no, you're here physically. Be present in this moment, not over there where the world's on fire or an ambulance is going to your kid's school. That's not real. You're present. Look around you. What is happening here and now? Mm-hmm. That really does help me. Mm-hmm. That's a trick that helps me. I don't advise people because you need to find what works for you.
Yes.
And I think that requires getting some professional help, talking to someone professionally. But for me, that really does mentally click myself into a less anxious place.
Yeah, I always say that about meditating. Like, some people feel like, oh, I've got to sit in a quiet room and do it this one way, or I'm not doing it. And it's like, no, you can. To me, you find the way that works for you. Same thing with religion. It's like you find the things that work.
Yeah,
and there's such a myriad of tools. And what's really interesting? Like you said, calm down. When someone's anxious and you tell them just let it go, calm down, it
makes
can
them
almost
more
feel
anxious.
patronizing, condescending.
And also, like, you definitely don't understand.
You don't understand it,
Yeah.
but the thing is that I found is it doesn't match the energy, and sometimes you have to match the energy and the emotion. So you know what's been so helpful?
Tell me.
I've told people, if you feel
Give it to
really
me.
anxious, if you feel like you're revving inside, go with it. Jump up and down 50 times.
Go for a
squats,
run.
Run down
Yeah.
the street with your arms flailing. Skip as high as you can.
Yeah.
Squeeze and tense your body. It's an East Indian practice. Squeeze,
Yeah.
squeeze, squeeze, and then let go. And after you get the tensity out of the body, your nervous system can actually start depressing enough so that then you can implement breathing or meditation. But in that moment when you're revving, to just go, okay, I'm just going to stop and quiet down, it starts to feel like you're insane.
Yes. What a great
I'm gonna start taking video and posting of all the people fucking skipping because you just talked about the fact that everyone should do
Brian,
that.
I've shared this one thing a couple times in passing, and there have been hundreds of people who have written saying, I'm so happy that you shared this. And it's so simple.
Amazing.
I've told CEOs
So
before
simple.
Yeah.
that can't get out and go for a walk for 20 minutes. They're like, I can.
In the
I have 2
office.
minutes in my
Yeah.
schedule. Go to a wall, press against the wall, get down, do some push-ups,
jumping jacks,
your
do some
suit
things.
Right.
and that pushing against something, because we are physical beings, and getting that energy out of the body can actually help the mind and the system calm down and regulate.
Such a great.
So interesting,
Yes.
isn't it?
I'm going to for sure try that. For sure.
You need to send us video.
But see, this is like the simplicity of some of this. And that's why talking about mental health is important, because it makes it easier to talk about mental health,
Right.
which is the key. And then you learn stuff like this. Simple things that I can't think of these things. I wouldn't have thought of this.
It's
I can't wait
crazy
to
that
try
there
it.
was such a stigma around mental health for so long, and now we get into it, and it's exciting. Like, you hear these new tips,
get
and
so
you go,
excited.
"Oh my god, that's genius!"
Yeah.
It's like Randy has given us tips on Christmas morning, how to handle our kids opening presents.
Oh,
and
I love
things.
that. Yeah.
And it's super exciting, because then you start finding these new things that you've never thought of that work. But it
is
us
exciting.
talking about it.
Well, and that's what I tell people who are like a little wary of going to therapy. Like, what if it makes me sad? And well, you might get sad at times, but I get excited when I'm figuring myself out. There's the promise of getting better and easier and lighter. It's exciting.
Yeah. It is.
And so talking about it opens up these moments of excitement and almost like ecstasy, where you're hearing something, this could change my life.
I hope everyone can really hear that and take that in, because when you said, someone said to you, well, I might get sad, but the sadness is there anyway.
It's there anyway,
right.
right?
You feel
You're
great
not going
now?
to get sad just being in there. You're going to
That's
release
right.
some sadness.
Like, we're
Do
busying
you feel
ourselves.
great right now? No.
I always say to people about therapy, I'm like, when I was in school, I had math class, I had science class, I had history. I never had a class teaching me how to deal with emotions
A head
and how to
class.
communicate and do
Totally.
all that. That's what I'm in now. And my therapist is great. I found someone that, like, what worked the best for my brain was somebody that just goes, listen, try this next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I go, that's really scary. That's something I've never done. And then I try it, and then it works. And I go, oh my God, I want to try more of these things,
Exactly.
And then it becomes addicting that you're seeing all these new things that worked, compared to a lifetime where you just couldn't fucking wrap your head around how to work it. It didn't make any sense.
You're right. And here's
right.
the truth for all of us. We need a result. I'm sorry, but we're results-based beings.
Completely.
The valleys are so important, and we learn from the valleys, but sometimes you need a mountain, or if you can't get to a mountain, you need a little bit of a hill to go, okay,
You need a
I'm
win.
winning something.
There's light. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
whatever tools that you can use, and there's so many, but finding something that gives you some result to go, okay, it's possible. Like hearing you in the news covering these things, looking at it's amazing that you're not completely cynical based off of everything you're seeing. And so that's a question that I have for you is how are you not so cynical covering the stories that you've covered and seeing the things in the world, because I think people struggle so much with watching the news and looking at everything as the world is just a terrible, scary place. How do you navigate that?
It's hard. I struggle with that. But once I figured out I don't have to have the answers, the solutions, I sort of let myself off the hook. And once you do that, you don't feel compelled to like, okay, here's how we would fix this. Once you feel good, then you take a little less ownership of it. There's a little distance between you and the problem. And we all feel so close to the problem and like, oh, I wish I could solve it. And if I could fix it, I'd feel like I was doing something, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything about it. And even if I am doing something about it, it's not working, and it's not.
I'm not doing enough.
And that is a never ending cycle that you're never going to get there. You're never going to finish that project.
Yeah.
So, and I came up through movement politics. So I very much felt solution oriented. We'll solve this. We'll solve it with policy, but also politics and messaging. And I had to let that go because my party left. They're not interested in solutions. I would say the same of some on the left too. They're less interested in solutions.
Yeah.
So I had to let that go, which was disorienting and difficult. But once I figured out, okay, my job is to translate this. I'm here to make some sense of it, maybe offer some of my opinion, give some history and background and context. My job might not be to solve it, and that's okay. That's kept me from getting that cynical where nothing matters anymore. Everything's broken.
Right. Fuck
the
it.
world is on fire.
It's never going to fix itself. Like, forget it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. When you just said that, I felt myself take a big, deep breath.
Oh, like in a good way?
Yeah. In the sense of there is a freedom.
Yeah.
Whether even in relationships, you hear people just want to be heard. You don't necessarily have to solve it. With the stuff that's going on in the world, if you don't have to solve it, that's where you said the anxiety is.
Totally.
Solution. When you can let go of that.
Yeah.
It actually makes you more present.
That's a big one in life. Like that was something that I had to come to terms with because I've always been a solution-based person. Mm-hmm. So like when Sharna was not, it's like, okay, then let's sit and talk about it and let's figure it out and fix it. Mm. And then you realize like it's sometimes I just need to talk about some stuff. I don't need you to try and fix what's happening. Like it's the process is what is important in this. It's not the end. It's the journey itself that you're learning so much from. But that's a hard thing to wrap.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Nurses, are you tired of spending weeks or even months finding the perfect job that matches your specialty with your ideal shift and salary? LinkedIn has improved your job search experience. Search by specialty, the shift you want to work, and the salary you want to make. Go to linkedin.com/nurses and begin searching today. That's linkedin.com/nurses.
Note, side effects may include less time finding the perfect job, working a shift that you love with a salary that can take you to St. Thomas, Jamaica, and continuous smiling because of how simple this process was.
Wrap your head around.
It's very hard in politics because you think like, I see a problem, I see an injustice.
Well, people are millions of people are tuning in to see you speak about things.
It's tough, but you can give yourself that grace and that freedom to say, I don't have all the answers. I remember Substack is this new sort of platform that a lot of independent journalists are going to, and they wanted me to come on and start producing news there, and I am, and I'm loving it. But I said, listen, I don't know how to do this because I don't have answers, and it seems like people on this platform want answers. Mm-hmm. And the person at Substack I talked to said, no. She said, they just want to know that you get their frustration and anxiety. She's like, just go commiserate. That's enough. Once you give yourself permission to not have the answers, you can take a step back from it. It doesn't mean you don't care about it. Of course you do. But that the project of solving, especially in politics, again, it never gets finished. But I also tell myself this thing over and over again, too. And I say this at a lot of speeches when people talk about seemingly unsolvable problems. There's a guy named Malthus. He was a philosopher economist in like the 1800s, 1700s. And he came out and said, we're going to run out of food. We're going to have a population explosion in America and not be able to feed everyone. And political leaders and thought leaders listened to him, and everyone got very afraid and anxious. What Malthus couldn't foresee was the Industrial Revolution, which democratized the production of food and distribution of food. Problem got solved. Just because he couldn't think of the solution didn't mean it wasn't waiting for someone out there. So when I talk to a lot of people who get existentially worried about like climate change, what are we going to do? My kids, my grandkids, they're going to, think about Malthus. There might be a solution out there. You might not see it. You can't connect it from where we are to there, but it might be out there. I hope that takes your anxiety down a little bit. But it's hard. We feel like we need to be solving it actively. We can't do that all the time.
Such an important point. Morgan Housel talks about this. We had him on the podcast, and he talked about even financially, right? Everyone's predicting markets and what's going to happen and what's going to happen. It's not so much of what you can see, because everyone does their best. It's what you can't see. You can't see some sort of, that COVID was going to happen. You can't see. So there's so many small unseen things that, again, taking a step back and saying there could be a solution that's out there. We just can't see it right now. There could be something that happens that could be catastrophic, but we can't control it. We can't see it. So to take a step back and try to be as present as possible with what you do have control over. And sometimes that's just the world around you.
Your small circle.
Our family. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about is parenthood. How has that changed your views on things?
Well, politically, instead of looking at a policy as a political operative, you start looking at things as a mom and how does this affect my kid? And, so I've always been invested in child hunger. Okay. But it wasn't until I had a kid that every kid became my kid. And I really started processing it as not a political issue, but a human issue. So everything became more human for me as a mom. It didn't mean I didn't care about things before, but they have a person, a face for all of the things. But I also had to get less solution oriented because you want to fix all your kids' problems. And I know intuitively you can't, and that's not good for them. But also my therapist tells me you can't, and you can't for lots of reasons. For your own self, modeling mental health, I don't have all the answers. I am not a perfect parent is helpful for a kid to not feel okay, I have to be perfect. My mom's perfect. She's got all the answers. So in age appropriate ways, I loop him into I'm struggling at this moment, but I'm working on it and getting help. And that's an okay thing to do, but also not solving his problems because like you said, sometimes he just wants to be heard. He doesn't need the solution. He just wants to feel is someone getting me as I'm talking about this social injustice he felt in the schoolyard, whatever it was, just want to be heard. And that's okay too. Recognizing when he doesn't want the solution. So yeah, in life and politics, taking a step back from the solving has been a huge lesson and challenge.
It's tough with kids because as a parent, you hate seeing your child suffering through anything. But at the same point, it's if you step back, you go, like we've talked about, it's the down parts of our lives that we learn the most from.
That's right.
So do I want to rob my child of those learning experiences that are his path? And so it's constantly weighing those two things. And, you see things where you want to step in and fix it. And then you have to kind of check yourself and step back a little bit and go, no, let me just give some words of wisdom and encouragement. and help that way as much as possible without fixing the situation.
Yeah, it's so hard though.
It's super hard.
It is.
It's so hard.
Constant dance with that.
Yeah. And I have a special needs kid. My son is on the spectrum, also has Tourette's. But this is amazing. I don't think I've told this story because I don't talk about that part a lot because that's his story to tell if he wants to one day. But he likes it when I talk about it. When he was struggling with some tics that were like disruptive and noticeable at school, my solution would have been, okay, you want to stay home a couple of days? His solution, unprompted, was, I want to give a presentation to my class about my tics.
On Tourette's.
And tell them, here's what's happening when I make these movements or sounds. Here's what helps me when I'm doing it for you. Would I have ever told him to do that, be that brave?
That's amazing.
That was his idea. And he's recently gotten to a place with autism where he wants to do that to his class about autism as well. I mean, why would I rob him of those opportunities? That's his solution. That's way better than mine.
For sure.
Way better. But, you know, when you see your kid struggling, I might not have even gotten to that point if I had tried to solve it.
Right.
He wouldn't have gotten that opportunity because I would have just taken him out.
You
and
wouldn't
said,
have been like,
can stay home."
hey, have you ever thought about sitting in front of your friends? And no.
Never.
No way.
You
That
would
was
have
his
robbed
idea.
him of the
Of the
strength and the
experience,
courage.
yeah, of what
'Cause
growth comes out of that.
He's brave. And his brain works different. So he arrived at that solution because he's thinking about this problem differently than I am. And I have to remember that as well. Being neurodivergent means you see things a little differently. You process things differently. Let me give him an opportunity to come up with some creative solution for this. That's been a huge life lesson too, that like he might have better answers than I do.
Nothing is going to make him more brave than being brave.
And being himself. Yeah.
Experiencing it, like standing in
true.
front of a crowd and being, being in a terrible situation that way and being really nervous about it, but doing it. Like those are, I always tell people, like, it's the doing things.
Yeah.
When my kids are like, oh, I'm really nervous and I don't want, it's like, listen, I get it. I understand that you're nervous. That's exactly why you should do it.
You gotta do it. Yeah.
You should do it just to see if the experience is anywhere near what your fears of it are. And 99% of the time, it's not. If you ask people, oh, what do you see? What's your biggest fear in this? The fear is ridiculous. You hear these things and it's like, oh my God, you're going to get nowhere near that response from people around you.
Yeah.
Go do it. You're going to win at this. You're going to feel great at the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did. But he felt good in addition to being brave and doing it because he thought of it.
Right.
It was his solution.
His idea.
Not mine.
Right.
So yeah, that's been very humbling too. Taking a step back and being like, well, I think I've got all the answers. I really don't. He might have some of them. And I need to give him that space because he's incredible. And, I was telling a friend of mine this, some of his challenges with Tourette's when we first got him. And he's like, his response to learning that he had these challenges was, wow, he is going to be an awesome adult because these challenges are going to make him so cool. Mm-hmm. And I cried when he said that because I was like, what a better way to look at it. What a great way to look at it. An optimistic way to look at it. And oh, thank you for that gift. Yeah. Telling me to frame it that way. So,
was there a turn for you? I hope you don't mind me asking this. I don't know if that's the way that he was born or, that sort of like segued at some point. But was there a turning point for you of having something that can be difficult to deal with in front of you and sort of adapting to that as a parent?
Yeah. I mean, he got diagnosed maybe at like 7 or 8.
Okay.
But he had presented some things. And so I wasn't surprised. I wasn't upset. I was sad initially because I felt guilty that I hadn't given him some grace, knowing that's why these were some of his challenges. Maybe I was too hard on him, thinking he couldn't help some of these things. So I felt a little guilty. But then we just moved forward. And I think I let him guide me through through this journey. And like I said, I only talk about it, minimally, because he might not want this to define him.
Sure.
That's his choice. And I'm a public person. I don't want to be out there defining him for him. But when he sees me talk about it, he loves it, and it makes him feel really good. So I try to be balanced, but I think just remembering that he's his own person. He's not me. He's not me as a kid. He's not my husband as a kid. He's his own person. And that was true before diagnoses, right? And this is just going to be something we're all going to navigate together. And it's going to be fun and exciting, but also challenging. And that's okay. Everyone's got challenges. And my therapist would remind me okay, he might have some social challenges at school. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? You don't have to be neurodivergent to have social challenges at school.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
Right. So that took a little pressure off too. Every parent is going through some challenge at all times with one of their kids.
Right.
So that took some pressure off too. And listen, he's great. He's very functioning. He's, he's great, and he's going to be great. But yeah, it's taking these turns through the journey one day at a time. Not overreacting, not anticipating things that may or may not happen, and just being present again for all the steps,
He's really lucky to have you.
Oh, I feel.
But I mean, he really.
I'm so lucky.
And not just him. I think the world and what it is you're doing, the person that you're being, because people connect with people that are real. And you're not afraid to be real. And we talk about that. It's, you kind of go through that phase in life where you're sort of putting on the mask and you're doing what you think people care about. And it's not until you get down to, I can't fix the things in your life.
Yeah.
I can literally just be on your team.
Yeah.
And I can think about and speak about things that maybe you haven't thought about and possibly help you through this journey that you're on, because it's a hard journey. Like we talked
everybody.
about, the road less traveled is the road less, it's a harder road to be on.
Right.
So if you can hold somebody's hand and you can take that road together, it's amazing. And it's what you're doing with your show, with the new stuff you're doing with your child. It is, the world is so lucky.
Thank you. I think, and I think you would agree, because I think this has been your journey too. Once I decided I could be an empathetic person and do my job, there's this lie coming up in the news that you have to be detached from the story you're covering. And I get part of that. You want to be professional, right? But at the same time, I gave myself permission some years ago to start with empathy and the human side of a news story or a politics story. And that's okay. And it's okay to get emotional about a news story. It's okay to talk about, what about the actual people that this policy impacts? It's okay to ask that question. I think once I got less embarrassed of empathy, then
stop looking at it as a weakness.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're programmed to think you're strong if you can go in and not feel emotional with it, and you can just get in and get the story done.
Right.
It's that's not
or
strong
your
at all.
job.
That is just a weird. Robots can do that. I can go buy an AI thing that'll sit in my living room and tell me all the great things.
One day you will.
One day that'll be there.
Right, totally.
And I don't know
You're
about
gonna have
you.
to figure out how to make me a good grilled cheese first, okay? Because the bar is very different.
I can put on little hinges and a robot
I watched
and come
the
and make you a
Jetsons
grilled
when I was
cheese.
a kid, so I want Rosie to come and do the things for me.
Totally.
That's what I want first.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know about you, but I want more empathy in all places.
There's
all
nowhere
mediums.
it shouldn't be.
The world
needs
needs it right
like,
now.
We don't need to lack empathy. We need more empathy.
Right.
Yeah. And the worst part, not to drive back into politics, but the worst part is the people on the far right now are saying that empathy is weakness. It's wokeness. If you care about the suffering of other people, you're woke and weak. we used to, compassionate conservatism is a thing. We used to lead with empathy, and you might not have liked our political or policy solutions, but we used to lead with empathy. And now that's the weakest part of politics. And that is such an awful, deleterious, corrosive, toxic lesson to be teaching people.
Yes, I agree.
You're just going to get more of that, I'm afraid.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. Sorry to be a bummer.
No.
Right, yeah. Boy, you really left this on a shitty level.
Sorry.
We always go out with 3 final questions.
Great.
Here at Oldish.
Okay.
So,
Just
number
to lighten
1.
it up a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You got it.
What is something that you used to care about deeply and now are grateful that you no longer do?
Okay. My body image. Growing up in ballet, and
Sure.
it's like the thing I cared about the most. And then being on the news and TV, that didn't stop, right? But yeah, I've let that go completely, and it's very liberating. I mean, you can tell I've let it go, obviously. Like, I'm not,
No, I can't.
the skinny,
Stop it.
whatever, and that's okay. I've completely let that go. And here's the good thing about aging on camera. Everyone is going to let you know really quick what you look like.
Of course they do.
Right? You have to come to acceptance very fast. Don't ever talk to me, Brian Austin Green. You look amazing. I don't even want to hear it from you.
I read some things where people are like, he's aged horribly. Like, and I'm like,
That is
what?
ridiculous.
52. Like, what?
Sorry.
He looks old. It's like, I am old. Like,
Stop
what are you
it. Stop
talking
it.
about?
I don't want to hear from either of you.
Yeah.
You both look great.
You
You both look fantastic.
Well,
but
thank you.
when
So
you're
do
on
you.
when you're
Yeah.
on camera, people are going to tell you what you look like.
Yes.
You've got to get to acceptance really
Yeah.
quickly. So,
Or you've got to get to that level of like honestly not giving a shit.
don't caring. Yeah, not caring. Yeah.
Of just like laughing and going, you have no fucking idea.
And,
Yeah.
and everyone's on camera these days
Everybody.
because it's social media. So
That's right.
everyone's looking at themselves.
Yeah.
So
And nothing's real anymore, and filters. And so I've completely let that go as a worry, and I am better for it.
amazing. Amazing.
Okay.
What is one human messy moment that taught you a lot?
I mean, I would say the Ticks moment for me taught me the most about being a mom. When I wanted to solve it, when I wanted to take him out, when I wanted to bubble wrap him and protect him, and he said, I'm actually going to go in the opposite direction, I felt like a messy mom, but also like, oh, what a great reminder to listen to my kid and give him these opportunities. And it would, like I said, it was so humbling. I think that really taught me the most about being his mom, because we all have concept, ideas of like how to be a mom, a dad, a parent, what that's supposed to look like. But I'm his mom, and that's all I have to be is his mom,
Ooh, as Oprah says, that's a writer downer.
That's a writer down.
Not the mom. It's not the bad. It's his mom.
Yeah.
Look at the person in front of you.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Last one.
Okay.
What would you tell your younger self now that you know more and care less?
Yeah. I think about this a lot. Let me first say the better advice, like I wished I had written stuff down as a young person that I could have looked at as an older person. That would have been so instructive. And if you're a young person, high school, college, write some stuff down about who you are that day.
Journal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all, like your list of anxieties, your hopes for the future.
Okay.
I would love to go back and read that. That would have helped me. Me starting now to tell my younger self, I don't know. Like I would say be less worried about how you're going to get there, because you're going to get there. You're ambitious, you're smart, you're intuitive. You're going to get yourself wherever you're trying to get. But at the same time, if I weren't that ambitious, hardworking, worried,
Would
I
you
wouldn't
be
have
you
gotten
right
there.
now? I know.
So it's such a double-edged sword to
It
give
is.
your young self advice, which is why sometimes I turn it to like what would have been helpful for your young self to tell you now.
Yes.
Because so I don't have like a neat answer for that, but I have thought about it.
Yeah, that is a great answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
That's fantastic.
SC Cupp.
Oh, it's been so nice having
What
you
a great
here.
therapy sesh, you guys.
Thank you so
This
much
was
for being
awesome.
here.
I learned so much.
Yay.
We did
Good.
too.
So
The
did
best.
we. For people that enjoyed watching this episode, listening to it, however you're taking it in, please follow us, review us, subscribe to our channel.
This is an important podcast, what you guys are doing. It's important.
We like to think
Thank you.
so.
It is.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you.
Especially, I know Sharna's not here, but especially two men of a generation, successful, talking about mental health challenges. Like, you are doing important work. It's really, really,
Thank you.
I'm proud of you
Thank you.
both, and I'm
Thank you.
just honored
Thank you.
to be
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you, Essie. It was an honor to have you
Oh my
here
God.
with us to sit down and share a little bit of space and time.
Yeah.
So
Loved
Amazing.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Thank you all for tuning
Your
in.
podcast.
Oh, yes.
So other people can go listen.
My podcast is Off the Cupp with 2 P's. It's an interview podcast where I talk to celebrities about mental health.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you
Thanks
can
for
find it
doing
anywhere,
what
yeah.
you do.
Thanks.
I just wanted to take a moment to let you know that you don't have to navigate life alone. If there's something hard that you're dealing with or you're just ready for a change, then reach out to me at randyspelling.com, or you could DM me on Instagram, also at randyspelling. And if I can help you, I will. If there's a resource that I can share with you, I will also do that as well. Thanks.
It's on, the biggest Maytag sale of the year at Lowe's. Buy 2 select laundry appliances and get up to a $100 bonus via instant rebate. Shop all things Maytag, including the new stackable Pet Pro laundry system that removes pet hair from clothes. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer valid through 5/31. See store for pricing and offer details. Advertise savings on all major Maytag appliances through maytag.com and participating retailers. Prices may vary. Additional terms and conditions apply.